Daredevil Born Again Season 2 might be over, but that doesn't mean we're done with the character of Daredevil or any of his friends. So I want to take a video where I look at all the characters from Daredevil Born Again, figure out where they may fit into the future of Daredevil and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Also, my cat Mortimer not sitting on my lap because he is very upset because he could see my list here and White Tiger is on it, which is pretty low, and he wants her to be the main character of the show, but that's just not going to happen. Alright, so we're going to start with the more important characters. We're going to work our way down through all the characters in the season of the show, and then we're going to end with some characters that I think could be in the next season of the show. So what we've got here, spoilers for everything in Daredevil Born Again Season 1 and 2. I'm not going to talk about any leaks or anything that's been seen on set. I'm going to talk about some comic stuff, but nothing too recent. Alright, so let's start with the big guy. Let's talk about Daredevil. So Matt Murdock is currently in prison. It's the very last shot of the season. He's closed into a cell I would assume is going to serve some time. Now, a couple things about this. Number one, he hasn't gone to trial yet. He will have to go to some trial, presumably, and like an arraignment and stuff like that. So we could have a trial of Matt Murdock next season, which would be fun. But let's say he confesses to all his crimes immediately and like season 3 starts, Daredevil is guilty on all counts and he's in jail. So like, where do we go from here? Well, one thing I don't think we're going to do is I don't think we're going to break Daredevil out of prison immediately. At least I really hope we're not. Because for Matt's sacrifice to feel consequential, it has to at least inconvenience him for a little bit of time. I think definitely by the end of the season he's out of jail. But I think we spend some time in prison. Now, there are a lot of people who are looking at this setup and seeing, oh, you know, this feels like a very famous Daredevil story. And I understand why they would think that. Makes total sense to me. However, I don't think that's as important as people think it is. So for explanation, so in 2006, there was a new Daredevil story arc that was started called The Devil in Cell Block G. That was written by Ed Brubaker with art by Michael Lark, Frank D'Amata, Corey Petit, and then later Stefano Guadiano and Frank D'Armata. This is a 5-issue book in the middle of Daredevil Volume 2. So it starts with issue 81. So like I said, 2006. So we're in the middle of Marvel's Civil War. And this is a story famously about Matt Murdock going to prison. So you see the end of Daredevil Born Again Season 2 and you say, oh, right, Matt Murdock's in prison. This will probably be like that. I don't think it will for a couple of reasons. And I'm just going to really quick kind of go over some of the important points of this story. So first of all, biggest difference is the circumstances. Matt gets his identity leaked as Daredevil. He does not want people to know he is Daredevil, and he does not confirm that he is Daredevil. He goes to prison as Matt Murdock for crimes associated with Daredevil, but throughout this whole process, Matt is trying to convince people he is not Daredevil. And it's tough for him because he has to pretend he doesn't have any superpower, so he has to like let himself get beat up because he's not Daredevil, so he can't fight back against people. So that's the biggest difference, I think. In the show, Matt has confirmed he is Daredevil, so a lot of the moments that make the Devil in Cell Block D interesting wouldn't really work because that's not the tension here. And that kind of does take some of the other fun options off the table for things you can do, things you can have other characters doing during this story. Also, another big difference, Kingpin is not also in prison. This is why it kind of feels like we did the Devil in Cell Block D already, but in season 2 with Punisher, kind of. But anyway, those must be the biggest differences, right? No, because this is also the story where Foggy Nelson dies, and Matt is helpless to save him, and it throws Matt into a downward spiral that ends with him escaping prison with the Punisher so that he can find Foggy's killer. So they can't do that anymore because Foggy's already dead. Now, they could do that with another character, Karen Page, right? If they wanted, she's immortal. It would be a really big deal if she was killed. And famously in the comics, she dies. But because season 1 of Born Again started with a big character death, I would be surprised if they do that again here. Not saying they can't, but anyway, I think the comparisons between this and the Devil in Cell Block D, obvious. And it is an iconic Daredevil storyline, so of course people are going to care about it. What else is going on during that story? We'll get to it when we cover another character. But there's another book, way more recent. It's part of the Daredevil run by Chip Zdarsky, with art, at least at this point, by Marco Cicchetto. And in this arc, Daredevil also goes to prison, but this one's a little bit more interesting because he is allowed to go to prison as Daredevil. So people don't know he's Matt Murdock. He keeps the mask on the entire time he's in prison, and people in jail with him know we don't like this guy because of crimes Daredevil did. So that creates some interesting tension. That I feel like is closer to what this next season is going to feel like, at least with Matt. It also gets at Matt's classic, like, I have to do my time and serve for my crimes, even though everybody around him is like, no, we'll get you a deal, we'll argue in court, like, you won't have to go to jail. And he's like, oh, but I've done all these crimes. And pretty much everybody in jail is like, you're annoying. But it turns out there's a big crime going on at the jail, which Daredevil figures out, and then he's let out for that reason. So okay, let's say that's what's going on. What else can we learn from that? Well, first of all, and this is kind of important, we introduced some new villains in this arc, the Stormwinds. And they are up until now unknown brother and sister pair of New York power players. They would make interesting villains. I do think they would skew a little bit closer to Fisk than you kind of want, but I wouldn't be surprised if they introduce him here. So there's that, first of all. You also have an ally in prison with him. He is a black man. His name is Marcus. I don't think this is exactly the role a certain character will play, but like the idea that Daredevil has a friend who's a normal guy, who's like, Daredevil, you're being kind of a brat. I could see that being another character who we'll talk about. And I don't know if this is like the name we have decided on for this arc, but looking at it now, it's called the Black Kitchen. So I guess that's what this arc is called. A lot of it is because of other stuff that's going on in the book with another character who's doing Daredevil stuff, which we will definitely talk about. One other interesting thing about this book that I don't think would make any sense here, and I honestly would kind of be annoying if they tried to do this, because during this storyline, people don't know Matt's Daredevil again. He used the Purple Man's children to make everybody forget about that. But Daredevil goes to jail, and if Daredevil goes to jail, Matt Murdock also goes to jail, and then people go, oh, I guess Matt Murdock's Daredevil. So apparently, to get over this, Foggy decides to hire Matt's twin brother, who I don't know how much we're supposed to know about this guy. I did not know he existed up until this point, to impersonate Matt for a while so that Daredevil can go to jail, and then it's like, oh, Matt's still out here, so it's not him. And I think this is a wild thing to do, but I don't think you could do this because, again, in the show, Matt Murdock confirmed he was Daredevil, so there's no issue about like maintaining a secret identity. In this book, also, Daredevil goes to jail because he accidentally killed a guy, which is something that I cannot remember if has happened yet, but I'm sure over the course of these 5 seasons and the Defenders, and I guess, I don't know, the She-Hulk show, you can make the case that Daredevil's accidentally killed one of these guys. So if Matt Murdock goes to prison for Daredevil's crimes, they could make one of them this, like involuntary manslaughter or whatever, and that could be what Daredevil's serving time for. He is eventually released because he exposes all the bad stuff that's going on at this prison, including a drug that makes you mean. It's called recid, like recidivism. So it like makes you angry, makes you more likely to end up back in jail. I don't know if they're going to do that plot line, but I would not be surprised if there is some sort of scheme going on at the prison that Daredevil is only able to deal with because he is also at that prison. A couple other interesting things that happened during the Black Kitchen, part of why this is called Black Kitchen at least, and I hate it when Marvel does this, usually, is that this run is like more or less derailed for an issue or two by the King in Black storyline. So symbiotes break into the prison, Marcus helps Daredevil fight off the symbiote, so that is a good moment, but like it's clearly not what the book is about. I don't think that'll happen here. And then the other thing that's interesting about this book is the one where Kingpin, who is the mayor at the time, and Typhoid Mary get together. Now, I would be shocked if they decided to use Typhoid Mary in one of these shows again, because she was in Iron Fist Season 2. She was played by Alice Eve, and Iron Fist Season 2 is better than Iron Fist Season 1, but like it's not very good. I would wager it is the least watched of any of the Marvel Netflix shows. So like I think it would be smart to do a full reboot on Typhoid Mary because nobody's going to care. And that version of the character was okay, but I think there's more to it than that, especially because Typhoid Mary is traditionally a mutant, and that is the MCU's favorite thing right now. It's introducing one-off mutants in stories that are not about mutants, so she would be perfect for that. Fisk, obviously, probably not a big player in this story, definitely not Mare, so we'd have to give her another reason to be part of the story. But, you know, I like Typhoid Mary being in this book. I doubt we'll see her here. But that's a big one. I think that's mostly what we're going to do with Daredevil. He is going to spend a good chunk, if not the entire season, in prison, maybe go on trial for being Daredevil and, like, fight for himself, which I think would be great. And I think if you want to know what that's like, read, like, Daredevil Volume 6, issue maybe 20. You can start there. It's the run by Zdarsky and Chichetto. So I feel like that's what this is going to feel more like, even though Devil in Cell Block D is a much cooler name, objectively. Like, that is the coolest name. I understand why people gravitate towards it. So that's Matt. Let's talk about some of the supporting characters that are a lot quicker to run through. Karen, where does Karen Page go? I think she's got maybe 3 options besides just disappear, which I don't think she's going to do. 1, she could work at the paper again. She could get a job at the Bulletin. Her boss is back. BB is working there now. I don't think it would be a bad idea. I like having a main character be an investigator, and that seemed to be something Karen Page was good at, especially if, like, we're doing the Stormwinds maybe, and we're exposing more corruption in the city. That'd be a good way to keep an eye on that and, like, organize all of that for an audience, is through Karen. The second thing, and probably the easiest path going forward, is for Karen to continue being a lawyer. Maybe she continues working with McDuffie. Maybe she starts her own practice. It's unclear exactly what would be the best move, but it would make sense to keep this character a lawyer so that when Matt eventually gets out of prison for whatever reason, he maybe can practice law again with Karen. The third thing I think she could do, because of all this resistance stuff and all these organizing, I wouldn't be surprised if Karen goes into politics. maybe she becomes a campaign manager or a PR officer or something for the next candidate for mayor after Sheila. Because it seems like, based on the Spider-Man trailer, Sheila becomes like some sort of interim mayor, and she would have to presumably run again at some point. Maybe Karen will help someone else try to do that, who we will get to. Next, we have Foggy. They have to keep Foggy dead. I only bring him up because in the beginning of season 1 of Born Again, everybody was like, oh, they're bringing him back. They kind of referenced one of the Daredevil issues that did that, and Daredevil like saw him die, but this is comics. You could fake that. Maybe he's in witness protection or something like that. While that is technically possible, I don't think it's a good idea, because so many of the big emotional moments of Daredevil Born Again had to do with Matt dealing with Foggy's death, so I don't think we can go back on that. Second, if that was what was happening, who's doing it? Because there's a couple characters you could figure that would maybe be the people that would do that, and they would be characters that we've recently seen and didn't mention this. So like Brett Mahoney, maybe he could have orchestrated it, but it doesn't seem like he did. You know, Wilson Fisk could have orchestrated it behind his wife's back, but it doesn't seem like he did. Mr. Charles, or a member of the CIA or something like that, could have done it behind his back, but it doesn't seem like he did. Like, I think if that was something they wanted to do in season 3, they'd tease it at the end of season 2. Speak of the devil, let's talk about Wilson Fisk. So Fisk, as we leave him, he is on some sort of island alone. He is isolated. He is miserable. This is his punishment. He got a deal. He has to stay away from New York. Is he going to be in the next season of the show at all? I would guess he will be in it. It just feels like these shows like to bring people back, even if just for like a small cameo. And that's what I think maybe is the most we'll get out of him. Like maybe some of the characters the Kingpin has dealt with in the past are up to something. And Kingpin's the only one that can help Matt. Because I do think he also feels like he probably owes it to Matt. And owes it to his city, right? So, like, I bet we get a cameo from Fisk. That's probably it. Also, like, I just don't think it would be interesting if we reformed him or, like, tried to rehabilitate his image. Because, like, they already did that so many times. They did it in season 3 of the show. And they did it in season 1 of Born Again. So, like, I don't have any interest in it. Next, let's talk about Bullseye. This is one of the characters everybody's asking about. So, at the end of Daredevil Born Again season 2, we see Bullseye on a plane with Mr. Charles, leaving, going somewhere, I assume. I can't remember if they say they're going to DC, but either way, he's going with him. Though we know Mr. Charles works with Val, he's part of the CIA, he's doing like covert ops missions, although we don't know very much about what they are and how they relate to the other things that Val usually does, which we'll talk about. But it seems like Bullseye has been recruited by the bad guys to do some sort of bad guy things. Now, I would love it if this meant he's on the Thunderbolts now. And if he's just in Avengers Doomsday and we didn't know about it yet, that would make me so happy. Like, I would absolutely love a scene where, like, the Thunderbolts are just hanging out at their base and he shows up and Val's like, hey, by the way, you gotta work with this guy now. His name's Bullseye. Good luck. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's a psychopath. Like, we're in trouble. And he's like, no, I'm cool, guys. Don't worry. I'm a nice, cool guy. I'm good now. Because A, he feels completely different from everybody on that team. And B, he has a completely different power set than everybody on that team, which is nice to be interesting. So he could just be added to the Avengers with a Z, like the Thunderbolts, if they wanted to. Another thing they could do with him that I think maybe is closer to what we'll get is he could be part of some sort of evil Avengers, or dare I say dark Avengers group in the future. For people that don't know, in the comics, after the Secret Invasion, Norman Osborn used all the goodwill he had built up by killing the Skrull Queen to take over the Avengers and install a bunch of villains posing as heroes. So like Moonstone pretended to be Captain Marvel, Venom pretended to be Spider-Man, and Bullseye was on that team and he pretended to be Hawkeye. Which makes total sense because their skill sets are the same, and in those comics, Hawkeye wears a costume that's like got a mask so you could easily pretend to be him. I don't think they could necessarily do that here with Bullseye, because that's not what Hawkeye is in this universe. However, I could see a world post-Secret Wars where like the world is kind of resetting, where one of the plots is there is an evil Avengers running around doing stuff for the CIA, and like the government likes them and doesn't like whatever the main Avengers are, and one of them could be Bullseye posing as perhaps like Hawkeye's secret twin brother Trickshot, because that is a character. Barney is a character from the comics who I don't think they've mentioned at all in any of the MCU media. And it doesn't seem like we're going to be doing that much more Hawkeye stuff with Clint Barton. Like, I think they do want to pass the torch to Kate. So I think it'd be pretty cool if when this Dark Avenger shows up, because hey, we do have a Scorpion. So let's say Scorpion's part of it now and he's the new Spider-Man. And then you have this new Hawkeye character that no one can quite figure out because he's got all the powers of Hawkeye, but like Hawkeye doesn't have a brother. You know, other characters on this team, Sentry, obviously we've got plenty of him now. Green Goblin as Iron Patriot. Marvel Boy is introduced here and has one of my favorite moments, because he's sleeping with Moonstone, because Moonstone's sleeping with a bunch of these guys, because it's fun for Moonstone. Moonstone just does this. She likes to mess with people. But like when the two of them are hanging out in bed, they're just watching TV. She just tells Marvel Boy, she's like, isn't it crazy that we're all secretly supervillains? And Marvel Boy says, wait, what? And then she's like, and then Marvel Boy just leaves. The other member of that team is Ares. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Ares. I also wouldn't be surprised if maybe that's where Hercules goes. Like, we have a good Dark Avengers if we want to make one. I would love to see that personally. Other than that, do I think he'll show up in the next season of the show? Probably not, which is a shame because I really like him. I hope he does end up in something bigger. Like, I think if there's any takeaway from Daredevil Born Again Season 2, is that the people love Bullseye. Wilson Bethel's crushing it. The way that they have written this character and the way that they've developed him, now he is so fun. We got to see him somewhere else. And there's a lot of places he could show up because Bullseye is one of Marvel Comics' guns for hire. So it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense if he was in an X-Men movie, but it also wouldn't be super unbelievable if he just showed up in one because like Mr. Sinister could hire him. You never know. He could also be a mutant. I wouldn't be surprised if we do get that revelation, because there are a lot of mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the same way that Wonder Man isn't necessarily a mutant, but he could be based on how his origin story played out. Bullseye's origin story is pretty similar. You know, like superhuman abilities at a stressful young age. I would not be surprised if they retcon him into being a mutant. I don't think they should necessarily. I like that his powers are kind of mysterious and maybe even learned skill, but still they could do that. All right, next, let's talk about Heather. Speaking of villains, we saw at the end of season 2 of Born Again, Heather has gone full Muse, and this is pretty easy to imagine where this is going because there was a version of Muse in the comics who was a woman who came after the original Muse. I don't know all the details with her. I don't think she was incredibly consequential. I believe this character is sometimes referred to as Lady Muse, but her backstory doesn't matter because A, it's nothing like what Heather's backstory is, and B, Muse in the comics is very different from Muse in the show. So even if we tried to figure out what her backstory was, a lot of that is like Muse teaches her to do this, and Muse wouldn't have done that, and he doesn't have that superpower, so it doesn't really matter. But I do think Heather is going to be like an antagonist next season. I don't think she's going to be the main antagonist. I just believe she will be out there. Then maybe Daredevil will find out that like she's breaking the law, and there's a new Muse, no one can figure it out, but Bullseye's like, that's Heather. I should get out there and help her, but I can't because I'm stuck here in prison, so maybe he calls a friend. Who knows? If they wanted to do something completely out of left field with her, Heather is an evil psychiatrist. And I would say originally she wasn't evil, obviously, but now I feel like she's gone full like bad guy mode. And if that is the case, there is a famous Marvel evil psychiatrist that I would just love to see. And I'm sure there's other places we could introduce her, but Heather could maybe find the Moonstone, and after this Muse identity doesn't work, she could become Moonstone. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. Because I think the character of Heather was kind of frustrating throughout the season. I like the move she made at the end. And I like Margarita Lviv and what she's doing with the character. So I think it would be fine for them to do that. And that would be fun for me. I think it'd be funny. Also, for people like, but she's the Captain Marvel villain. She just needs to come up in a Captain Marvel movie. Sure, except Moonstone was not originally a Captain Marvel villain. She was originally a Hulk villain who transitioned to being a Captain Marvel villain over time because she just made more sense there. But like, Moonstone is a psychiatrist for superheroes, and like, she likes to get under their skin and figure out what makes them tick. That is exactly what Heather was doing. I don't think that's what they're going to do with Heather, but I would love it. Real quick, let's wrap up some side characters from Born Again. You got Cherry, still an investigator probably. I would be surprised if we see him more than once or twice in the next season. BB, I imagine if Karen works at the Bulletin, then BB and her will definitely have a lot of time together. If Karen does not, I still think we'll see BB and we will get some appearances from her. There will be stories she's writing that her characters are like following, so maybe we'll hear them read in her voice, but I don't think she's going to play an enormous role in the series going forward. Buck, I have no idea what Buck does. He's maybe my most confusing character here because he survived, I think. We don't really get too much confirmation on that. It seems like he survived a gunshot wound for hours and hours, but sure, whatever. Maybe he's a mutant too. Maybe they're all mutants. But he seems to be ride or die for Heather. And if Heather is going to be a supervillain like Muse, maybe Buck is going to be a supervillain like he is in the comics, kind of, called Bullet. It's not a super important character, but maybe he and Heather are going to be like a Bonnie and Clyde duo. The main reason I think it would work, and why, like, as a person in that universe, I don't think I'd buy it, is because everybody's gonna know who Heather is. The Muse connection, she has the original mask, like, that'll be super obvious. So then, if she's working with somebody named Bullet, who can shoot really well, be like, oh, right, and that's probably that other guy, Buck, that seemed to know her, and, like, they were dating or something. Either way, I want more of their energy Like, I want more choking and all the weird stuff between them. I just don't know if we even need Buck anymore. Like, maybe Heather goes full Muse. Maybe the season begins with Heather killing Buck. That would be something that wouldn't shock me. Like, I think Heather needs to kill some characters if she's going to be a villain, so maybe that. All the task force guys, we know they're in jail with Daredevil. Like I said before, I do think Cole is going to become a friend to Daredevil. He's going to feel bad. He's going to want to repent for everything he did. At the same time, I think he might be a more antagonistic friend because he did get, like, beat up and scarred by Daredevil and Punisher. So they're not going to be best friends, but I do think Matt's going to look to him as, like, you're a reasonable guy. Also, you're going to get targeted by these task force guys like Powell. We should work together. So maybe he'll play that same role that Marcus plays in the Black Kitchen run in the comics. I don't know. And that's it for what I would call the core Daredevil Born Again characters. Let's talk about some others. So let's talk about some characters we have fully seen. Jessica Jones, where does she go from here? I don't know. We know that she is in Daredevil Born Again Season 3. That has been confirmed by the actors by accident, presumably. And I don't like to spoil things for people. I try to be pretty discerning when it comes to this stuff. There doesn't seem like there is a chance in hell that Jessica Jones being in season 3 of Daredevil Born Again will not be all over the trailers and all over the marketing. So, like, while this may seem like a spoiler, I don't think it is. Especially because she was the one that they revealed at Upfronts last year for this show. So, like, they know saying Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones is in the show, like, that gets people excited. So where does she go? Because she just restarted Alias Investigations. Is that her job now? And this is why I'm like, I don't really think we need Sherry anymore, because Jessica can just do that. It almost feels like that scene on the roof was him passing her the baton of like, nah, you're back doing this now. You're the guy. Also, her powers aren't that great, so I don't think she's going to like be a full-on superhero. But Jessica was never that, so I don't think that would be what I'd expect from her. Like, I feel like she'll be a private detective again. I would love it if she brought back some of the Jessica Jones characters. Mostly, I'd say we'd probably want Malcolm back. I don't think we need Kilgrave back. Like, I think that would maybe be a mistake. There's a character, Oscar Orocho. I don't remember if he survives season 3 of Jessica Jones. If he's alive, he can come back. But the one I want back, and I think they could do this, and I think would kind of be fun. The only problem is, they're in different jails. But let's say Matt maybe gets transferred to the Raft, because of course you would transfer him to the Raft. He has superpowers. Like, he would definitely be someone that would go to the Raft. But let's say they do that, and it's a co-ed prison. We know one of the 6 or 7 named characters that is currently at the Raft is Trish Walker. I would love it if she got out of jail. Maybe her and Daredevil like bring down some sort of crime ring in these. Again, like it's a male and a female prison. Those don't usually mix too much. But maybe that's what they do. And I just think that would be interesting, because then we could bring Trish Walker back, because I would really like to see Trish back, specifically on Wonder Man. That's my dream season 2 of Wonder Man. Wonder Man is in a new movie or show that is a dark and gritty reboot of It's Patsy, starring an older Trish Walker. Like, they make a legacy sequel in the Marvel Cinematic Universe about Trish. We bring back Rachel Taylor, they do the whole thing. I think that could be so funny, so cool. And she is not an insignificant player in Wonder Man comics. She is currently a co-star of the Wonder Man comic series. So I think it would just be great to bring her back, Jessica Jones, figure out how to get her out of jail so that she can go off and live her dream in Hollywood. Okay. Speaking of Jessica Jones, let's talk about Luke Cage. So Luke Cage, we see him at the end of Daredevil Born Again Season 2. He is back from wherever, somewhere overseas, doing the Lord's work, so Jessica doesn't have to, according to Mr. Charles. He doesn't seem super thrilled that he was doing it. He's happy to be back. Him and Jessica are still a thing. Part of me is like, oh, are they going to be like broken up? But no, they seem like they still have like a relationship. They're obviously raising Danielle together. And then it's kind of important to know that at the end of Luke Cage season 2, and that's not the last time we see him either, because we see him at the end of Jessica Jones season 3, but like the last big plot development for Luke Cage in his show was that he's taken over crime in Harlem. He is now like the kingpin of crime in Harlem, trying to kind of keep order, because he's like, there's going to be crime, so I'll be in charge, whatever. That came with the suit. Now, Luke Cage traditionally wears like a t-shirt, very casual. A lot of times it's a yellow t-shirt and, pants. Sometimes they do that thing where he has a little superhero outfit for one shot. But for the most part, his actual outfit is just regular clothes. When he becomes like the new Cottonmouth, he gets a suit. And when he visits Jessica in season 3 of Jessica Jones, he's wearing the suit. And now he's back and he's in the suit. And I'm like, is he still doing that? And maybe that's how Mr. Charles was able to get him. Maybe like blackmailed him. It's like, I know you're a criminal, so we'll take away your kid unless you come do CIA stuff for me. I don't think he did anything that exciting. I do think part of the season will have to be him kind of coming to grips with the fact that like he worked for the bad guys. And maybe his story will be about him taking apart that organization I don't know. What I do know is, if I could predict one thing out of everything on this board that is not like fully set up as something that's going to happen, but something that I think they should and probably will do, Luke Cage should run for mayor of New York. I think it would be nice for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to have at least one politician who is not a supervillain. And man, they have had such bad luck with that last couple of years. But in the comics, I believe immediately following Kingpin, Luke Cage takes over as mayor, and he is like the perfect character to do this. And like, take away the crime stuff, even though obviously that doesn't matter to the people of New York because they elected Kingpin. Luke is like kind, he's got a cool head, that makes him way better than Kingpin. He is a symbol, he's like a symbolic superhero who doesn't have a secret identity. You know, maybe he wants to get out of superheroing and wants to find a job that's like more of a job. And besides being a bartender and sweeping up at a barbershop, Luke Cage does not have an enormous amount of experience, but he is a man of the people who is loved by at least a lot of New Yorkers. So I think they should have him run for mayor, and I think Karen Page should run his campaign. Okay, how about this one? We'll say it because he's the fourth one, and without even knowing whether he currently is in it or not, like without looking at any leaks or anything like that, just assuming they're bringing Daredevil back, they're bringing Jessica Jones back, and they're bringing Luke Cage back, you'd have to assume that means they're bringing Danny Rand back. So what will Iron Fist be doing in season 3 of Daredevil Born Again if he is in it? Because now we're in the speculative characters that like nothing in the narrative of Daredevil Born Again season 2 would suggest they're here, but like it just feels like they will be. Why not? It would be mean, honestly, if they didn't. And okay, so when I was talking about the Devil in Cell Block D, I mentioned that another character is Daredevil at this time. Part of the whole thing is Matt's pretending not to be Daredevil, so it's helpful, even though this is not part of his plan, that someone put on a Daredevil costume and started fighting crime in Hell's Kitchen. They did not coordinate this with Daredevil. It is a mystery originally, but eventually it is revealed to be Danny Rand. He is the Iron Fist posing as Daredevil. Now that wouldn't be useful here, because everybody knows who Daredevil is. However, Iron Fist is like the one member of this team that could conceivably be a superhero, the way that like the other ones, A, have public identities, and B, like have a family, where Iron Fist really doesn't. Now, Iron Fist, at the end of season 2 of his show, Iron Fist, Danny Rand had lost the Iron Fist, and he had in fact gotten the power that is usually used by a different Iron Fist named Orson Randall to channel chi energy into handguns, which is very cool. I believe him and his friend Ward were like going around the world and searching for someone. Doesn't really matter because they're not going to pick up on that thread. But the Iron Fist at that time is Colleen Wing. I don't think it'd be crazy if she's still Iron Fist. Also, people have brought up this, and I think this is a kind of a fun idea. Luke and Jessica's daughter is named Danielle. It's a little strange that she is named after Danny Rand, who is Luke Cage's best friend in the comics. And like in the shows, they kind of started doing this. There's that one episode of Luke Cage with Danny Rand that did kind of work. So you're like, this could be a thing. But like, people have theorized that maybe Luke and Jessica both survived the snap. They had a kid, and they named her after their really good friend who did not survive the snap, Danny Rand, and that's why she's named Danielle. So like, maybe Danny was also just kind of gone for a while, because we don't know which of these other characters like survived or didn't survive the snap. I think you could get away with Danny thinking posing as Daredevil is a good idea and being like, oh, well, if I'm out there as Daredevil, people will be like, wait, is he Daredevil? And maybe he'll get off on like a technicality because the courts won't be able to figure it out. And like, I think that would bother real Daredevil. Like, Matt would be annoyed by that. But that does seem like something Danny would do. Also, like, I feel like the show needs to give Danny, and more importantly, Finn Jones, like a big, awesome action scene. As Daredevil or Iron Fist doesn't matter, but one take, no mask, so we know it's him. And it shows us like, oh, he learned and he is different now. And oh, fights with Iron Fist aren't gonna stink. Out of all of the like potential problems this show needs to get in front of, one is that people didn't like Iron Fist, and specifically the martial arts in Iron Fist wasn't that great. Do I think we see Colleen Wing? I don't know. I do think we could do a Daughters of the Dragon thing, but I think that makes more sense as its own show than like a part of Daredevil season 3. I wouldn't mind if Misty and Colleen show up at a certain point, but I guess like I feel like we're already keeping track of a lot of characters, especially Iron Fist, who most people probably going in fresh here, like they didn't watch the Iron Fist show. So introducing a character that people would know from the Iron Fist show, I don't know, that just seems like it might be a mistake. However, I do hope we get Colleen Wing and Misty Knight in the show somewhere. I just don't think they're going to be main characters like the other Defenders probably will. White Tiger, so she's not a Defender, but she's not really anything. Like, we don't have a specific title, we don't know how old she is. I think you could put her in the Young Avengers. I don't think they will. Like, we know she has superpowers now because she could run up the wall that one time, It's like maybe she tries to like link up with Jessica Jones and is like, I want you to train me. You saw I'm a good fighter. Like maybe that's somewhere she goes. Also, maybe she goes wherever Karen goes. So maybe Karen does get into politics, or maybe Karen works in law. I wouldn't be shocked if Little White Tiger was like her assistant or something, because those characters spent some time together. Now, could she just be a defender? Like, could it be Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and White Tiger? Sure. The fact that she wasn't one before makes me think she probably isn't going to be now. I think there's other places for her. Let's talk about the Punisher. So as of recording this video, I have just seen Punisher One Last Kill. And I'm not going to spoil it, but I really don't know what's going on with this character. I also have not seen, obviously, Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I even more don't know what's going on with that character. I have no idea what to expect from Punisher in the future. I don't think it would be a horrible move to like completely divorce the character from Daredevil, and maybe Spider-Man in the future, although, you know, whatever, they're going to be friends now. But like maybe you could introduce other characters that are his friends, like Moon Knight could come to New York or something like that. That would be interesting to watch. And even though it's not perfect, the special presentation has been relatively well received, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get a new season of the Punisher, or even a Punisher movie. And like, I like that Matt, even after Daredevil Born Again season 1, like he still doesn't like Punisher. He's happy that he helped him and he's not dead, so like that's great, but like they're not allies, so like I don't see a reason for Punisher to be part of another Daredevil story. Now, some people have theorized that because there's clearly in the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer a scene that takes place in a prison, could they do in Spider-Man Brand New Day a Daredevil cameo by way of kind of the Bendis Avengers run, where just a bunch of people are at a prison at the same time, so they fight villains together? And maybe even Punisher is like, Matt, I'll get you out of prison, don't worry, I got this. And Matt at the end of that story is like, don't worry, I'm staying here because I did my crimes. And Punisher's like, you are so annoying, I can't stand you. But Spider-Man's like, that's a good guy. Like, maybe they do that. I feel like, personally, they're bad at hiding things. Specifically, Sony is really bad at hiding things. I don't think this would not have leaked if Daredevil had a cameo in Brand New Day. But even if he did, I don't think he's breaking out of prison. I think maybe the guy, maybe with like a makeshift Daredevil mask on and prison clothes, maybe fights the Hand in the prison, and that's the extent of it. But, like, I don't think it's going to be a huge interaction. Oh, wait, this is a weird one I don't even kind of have an answer for. What's Swordsman up to? He was a big player in this season, and he got to do Swordsman stuff. Will we ever see Tony Dalton's Swordsman again? I don't know, maybe. I don't think we need to. He doesn't feel like one of the defenders. This character also doesn't really feel like he wants to be that. But, like, in a world where vigilantes are more accepted, maybe if Luke Cage does become mayor and there is, like, a program that he puts together to make the vigilantes not necessarily, like, fully legal and like cops, but to at least, like, kind of register them and everybody trusts it, maybe he does that and he starts being swordsman, you know, on the side. It's a weird thing for that character to do because he also clearly is swordsman, but it's unclear how much the people in the universe think he is. Like, it wasn't proven in the court because the court is stupid, but then after they all escaped, like, people would say also he used swordsman skills to beat up those guys at the escape. I don't know. Seems like Hawkeye is also, as a show, just in flux. I doubt we get another season of that, and I doubt this character is big enough to make it into the movies, which is a shame because I do really enjoy him. This could be a character that Muse kills. Again, like, I don't think they're going to kill all of these characters, but I think there's going to be some main characters that Muse kills that is like, oh, she's a big deal. Like, this Muse is serious, and that could be one of them, especially because if Muse is doing their thing, Daredevil is stuck in jail, maybe other heroes are like, we gotta step up, and Swordsman is one of them, and he goes to fight her not knowing that maybe she has superpowers now, or there's something else going on with her, and then she kills him. Like, that would be a big deal. Actually, that's what they should do, which is a bummer because I like this character, but yeah, that's probably the end of him. Then lastly, I want to talk about a character that I feel like out of all of these is maybe the least likely to show up in Daredevil Born Again Season 3, just because it would be the biggest stretch. You know, to introduce them, you would have to do some work, and I don't think they've started doing any of that work yet. However, I think if Daredevil Born Again gets a Season 4, and maybe we get a little bit of this in Season 3, I do think Elektra comes back. Because Elita Young, popular actor, she's been working a lot since then. She was on that show, The Cleaning Lady, with that actor who may be Wonder Woman, who knows. But, like, I think it would be stupid not to bring her back at all. Now, people would say, but she died, isn't she supposed to stay dead? Well, first let's say, which time? Because she dies twice in these shows. First, she dies in the end of Daredevil Season 2. And then she dies at the end of Defenders. But Matt survives the end of Defenders, so why wouldn't Elektra? It could be cool if part of what Daredevil Born Again Season 3 is doing is kind of Reign of the Supermen, but with Daredevil, like Reign of the Daredevils. I don't know if that's what you call it, but like maybe a lot of pretenders to the Daredevil throne have kind of showed up and like, I'm the new Daredevil. That could be what Iron Fist does. That could be what Swordsman does. Maybe that's what White Tiger does. The one who should take over, the one who would be a good Daredevil, and the one who just would be the most interesting character for Matt to have to deal with being Daredevil and taking up that mantle is Elektra. And I say it mostly because they did this in the comics and it was good. Like, I like this a lot. When Matt went to prison for manslaughter, that guy, Elektra took over and had to change her ways, which is something I feel like we did also get a little bit of in Daredevil Season 2. But, like, she, at this point, was just a full-on assassin. And she was like, Matt, you're an idiot. You should kill people. And he's like, I know, but I'm not going to because I'm so great. Also, I'm going to jail. So she's like, I'm going to be the new Daredevil. But the way that I'm going to prove to you, Matt, that I'm like a good person, I should be doing this, is I'm also not going to kill people. She gets like sais that can't stab people anymore, but they have like a tuning fork or something that gives her Daredevil powers. I think that costume is very cool. And I think they should bring her back. I think maybe she would be like a surprise at the end of Season 3. And then she's like a big player in Season 4. But like, I also think it's interesting because we don't know who the antagonist of Season 3 of Born Again is, besides maybe Muse showing up, played by Heather. We have seen in Spider-Man Brand New Day that the Hand are going to be making some sort of big move in New York City. And they're going to be classic Hand, like wearing their red suits and doing ninja stuff, like for either to please their evil god or just for money. We don't know yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of the plot lines of Daredevil Born Again Season 3 is that Matt is in jail while the Hand are out there causing a big problem. And Matt from jail has to like kind of recreate the Defenders and not like lead them because he's not doing that, but like they have to come together to fight the Hand. And if that happens and Matt is still in prison, I think it could be cool if another figure showing up who's helping them fight the Hand, but they don't know who it is. They keep kind of coming in and out. And people can even theorize things that happen in the comics, but maybe it's like a secret twin or something. And I was like, that's stupid. And you're like, yeah, right, that is stupid. That maybe by the end of the season, we would find out that it's Elektra. I think that would be cool. You know, like I said, I like her. Her season of the show is like the worst one of the Daredevil Netflix ones for sure. But I think that version of Elektra is good. I like Elodie Young, and I think it would be kind of dumb to not bring her back. If she's game, which I think she was training the other day on Instagram, and she was like, I'm getting in shape, and people are like, oh, are you going to be Elektra again? She was like, I don't know, maybe. So, like, she's interested, right? She's not sworn off the whole thing. Only other character I can maybe talk about here is Spider-Man, but I don't even have kind of an answer for Spider-Man. Like, let's say, huge hypothetical here. Hypothetically, let's say Daredevil, and at least Matt Murdock in prison, is in Spider-Man Brand New Day. And hey, Daredevil was Spider-Man's lawyer in a lawsuit that, if he can remember it, must not make any sense to him because he doesn't know the secret identity of the person whose secret identity he was protecting in a court case. So, like, what was the court case? That those characters do have a relationship, and Matt is going to do another cameo like he did in Season 1 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man in Season 2. So, like, Marvel does want us to connect those two characters, but we know so little about where Spider-Man is going to be at the end of Spider-Man Brand New Day that it's, like, impossible to figure whether he's going to end up in Daredevil Born Again Season 3. I will say, he seems to be the one character that is difficult because of rights reasons. And Vincent D'Onofrio has mentioned this because obviously Kingpin is a Spider-Man villain as well. But yeah, I don't know. Unless Disney buys Sony or something, I doubt they fully merge Spider-Man and Daredevil. And I'm fine with that. And those are all the characters I can think of. If you can think of other characters, if you agree or disagree, you know, let me know, because I'm curious what people think will happen. You know, I'm sure they're filming this in the city. I think they were filming it while Daredevil Born Again started. They might still be doing it. But, like, so maybe we will see some things, see actors in costumes that we didn't know they were going to be in. There's still plenty of time. My fingers are crossed that it will be cool, because Daredevil Born Again Season 2 was great. And I think, as I've kind of described, there are a lot of stories here that can work. And, you know, like, I've mentioned a couple of the villains that could show up. I think another one is Mr. Fear, which is a character who people thought Mr. Charles was. I don't think, like, people actually thought that, but people are like, oh, if he's somebody, he could be this guy, I guess. Mr. Fear is a weird one because of how many kind of incarnations this character's gone through. But the basic version of Mr. Fear is that he really is like Scarecrow. Like, he has a fear gas that he uses on you. Like, we've done the city without fear thing in Daredevil, but we haven't really done it. Like, we haven't explained besides just not being afraid. Like, I think if they wanted to do Daredevil, you know, Season 3, make that like Daredevil is Fear City or something. You know, Mr. Fear could be the villain there. You know, speaking of fear, it reminds me of a video I watched recently by Curious Archive. It's part of their Gods and Monsters series, and it is specifically Gods of the Deep. And I only bring it up because I am very scared of the deep. The way that this video relates like different horror stories and legends with like different sea creatures and the mystery of the sea, it really makes a lot of sense why so many monsters in fiction and mythology end up coming from the water, like Cthulhu or Godzilla or any of those guys. And yes, I know Godzilla's from space, but he spends a lot of his time in the water. But if you want to learn more, you can watch that video, as well as tons of other videos exclusively on this video's sponsor, Nebula. Nebula is where you should be watching these. It's the creator-owned subscription streaming service that I helped to create. So basically all my videos, that's Nando V Movies videos, and the Nando Cut videos too, go on Nebula first. You can watch them without ads. You can download them to watch them offline. It is without a doubt the best way to watch my videos. And that's not all, because you got exclusive content on Nebula. Like I said, like Tom Nichols videos. But that's not our only Tom. We also have Tom Scott, who's doing a series called England, where he goes to different counties in England and does an interesting thing, learns about an interesting industry. And in this week's episode, he drives a boat from his childhood that makes him so happy. It's the happiest I've seen a person in a very long time. And episodes of his series, England, go up on Nebula a week early. And Nebula is already a steal at $5 a month, or just $60 a year. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for just $30. That is $2.50 a month. It is an amazing deal. Again, go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut to check it out. All right, that's all I got. Stay safe, everybody. I'll see you around.